Hello, let's get started about this new tutorial. The reason I made this new tutorial is because there are some issues with old one in terms of the scale. In this map, the scale is meters. You can actually measure the distance, and from this point to the terminal of the high-speed train is roughly 3,000 meters. So here in Google Map, I just confirmed use the measure tool here. Uh, you can sort of measure the distance from here to here. So it's roughly about 3 kilometers. So that's a confirmation about distance is meters. I also want to show you in Rhino, because the default unit is meter, let's just make sure we have this unit set as a meter. So right now you can see it's meters. All right, so that's correct. Then I'm going to modify my Grasshopper script. I did a new script which reflect the meters as a unit. So here I'm going to open that file. And later I'm going to share this file through the Dropbox. So you will have this version online as well. So let me open this. The name is population land use 3D4. So that's the file name. In this file, there's a couple of change I have made. So let me go through that. The first one is at the beginning of this script. The original region was load based on square meter. So here I did a conversion from square meter directly to square feet. So that will make all the rest part of the script still correct. So I just simply divide, actually multiply 10.76. That's how you convert square meter to square feet. So for the rest part of the script, all the calculation remain the same. So here, by simply conversion, you can see the original one. I only did the north part of the district. So you can see the north part alone, you have population like almost 40,000 people. So it's 10 times bigger than the original number. So just because the meter feet issue. All right. So this 40,000 people is based on this people per acre, 30 people per acre. So you could make adjustment. You can also use other equations like people per square kilometers, people per square mile. You can definitely fit in these numbers into the population. This slightly different, but it kind of carry the same logic. All right, so we know there's 40,000 people live here. Other change I have made, let me just close Grasshopper, it's easier to see, is I made the layers of 2D office, 2D factory, 2D farm, 2D commercial, and 2D residential. So this is other layers. I have all the very simple polygon directly put in each layer. All right, so they are organized in the 2D layer, 2D footprint layer. So my goal, in order to transfer this file to Scenario 360, is to generate a 3-dimension model first. Second is I'm going to move this 2D footprint along the z-axis to reflect the height, the elevation. So the Scenario 360 can read the elevation data from this footprint. Right, so that's some new component I added in the Grasshopper. So let me explain them one by one. The first one is this new component. The name is pipeline. It's really useful. It basically, you can automatically collect every single geometry from a layer. It's automatically loaded into this equation, into this network. So in this case, you don't have to right-click, set multiple curves. This program will automatically collect every single geometry from that layer. Is super useful. And for the rest part is the same. I moved this layer up. I moved the geometry up based on the number of floors. So here you can see this is number of floors 21. Right? It's super useful. For instance, if I delete or if I duplicate some of the layers, the geometries. Let me turn off the background. All right. So here, see if I simply select this group of residential, and then I use copy. If I made a copy and enter finish, you see automatically after the copy, because they are still in the same layer, the 2D residential layer, right? So all the geometry is automatically loaded into this calculation. Then as a consequence, you can see the floor level is changed from 21 to 15. That's automatically. You don't have to load a new curve. See here, if I make another copy of this polylines under finish, then it's automatically changed the floor level from 15 to 12. Again, I can easily select geometries and then delete. Then you see the calculation will move the stories back to 21. It's automatic. It's super useful. All right, so this is how you can load the geometry with Grasshopper layer name. And I did the same thing for 2D commercial, 2D office, 2D school, and 2D factory. So they all being carefully put in the different layers. They are automatically loaded into this process. All right, so this is loading the geometry, and then after some calculation on the story height, then I did a new change. Is simply move. Actually, I go back to the residential. I simply move all the polygons along the z-axis. So right now they have elevations. I don't really need actually a solid model because Scenario 360 is like a two-dimension calculation. It doesn't care about 3D stuff. So I simply move these lines up. So the distance is controlled by the stories. So here I have 21 stories, and the n value control the height of each story. So that's 5 meters. So 21 multiplied 5 meters, you have these values 100. I think I multiplied 5 meters right here. So the height of the building is 105 meters, and then I move these lines up with this value. If you want to see a 3D building, it's actually this guy. You can actually see it right there. If I disable the preview selection, you can actually see the building show up as a blue color. Right? So this is the height, 105 meters for this residential. But again, I only need this two-dimension footprint floating in this elevation. All right. The next change I did is I add a new component. This component is automatic bake. I have to say you should have Lunchbox in order to use this component. This is a pretty cool component in Lunchbox, which can automatically bake geometries with a component. So that's the one, object bake. So here you can see I have the layer name. It starts with the BLDG, building residential. Right? So this is the layer name. And also I give this layer a blue color. That's the same color. I control the layer. And then the bake is controlled by this controller, this trigger. You can toggle true or false. If I double click, change it to true, Grasshopper will automatically bake all the geometries from this elevated footprint into this layer. The layer name is BLDG residential. So right now, if you look at the layer, I don't have this layer yet. So if I change this to true, it will generate this layer. But before that, I just want to show you I have the same logic for all the programs. For example, shopping, I have a 2D commercial load all the geometry in, and then in the bake, I have built-in commercial to host all the 3D elevated geometries. And have office, same logic, 2D office in, and then building office for the elevation. School, same, okay? And factory, and farm, and parking, okay? So the beautiful thing about this is all of this bake is controlled by one single trigger, this guy. So let's try that. So if I'm pretty happy with the result, I will just click false, double click to true. You see automatically you have this new group of layer being generated by Grasshopper, and also it put this new footprint into the right elevation. All right. I have to warn you, this is automatic, so after you bake it, I would double click to change the toggle to false. So it's not gonna, remain the on situation. So just turn it to off, false. And also in the future, if you don't need these layers, you can easily right click. You can select objects. You can see this is a 208 curve being selected. You can delete the curve. You can rebake them. I believe you can just simply double click false again. It will repopulate the geometry in. So you can always clean the geometry by right click, select objects, then you can delete. So that's important. You can also delete the layer, it's okay. So if you want to delete the layer, it's totally fine, because next time when you trigger this guy, the new layer will be generated automatically. So it's really cool technique. If you have hundreds of geometry, you can easily bake into the correct layer. So I will use Ctrl Z to undo, that's quicker. Alright, I think that's it. This is how you bake the geometry into the right layers. Right? And then later, after you have this, in order to give this to the Scenarios 360 team, let me just bake it really quick. Bake it and then turn it off. Close Grasshopper. So what you need is you give them these files, right? This floated elevation file. You can export as a DXF. However, I think the goal for us, in order to do this project as a group one, let me undo first, is after you have this basic footprint, for example, I know the residential, I will start with residential, which is the blue. So the first thing you want to do is actually relocate these buildings into the different zone, right? So if you like, you can lock the block, lock the street, lock the background, just in case you are not accidentally move something. So here you can relocate your building just to create a meaningful layout you think is makes sense. So you just move this building in the right location. You can definitely duplicate more if you want. And after you have this building in the right location, I will just move a little bit, a few right one right here. I probably move all the right one here. That's commercial. Probably move one right one here. All right. So for example, you have all the building in the right spot. Maybe one here. Then you can use Grasshopper script. Right. You can see them actually floating above the air, right? If I disable the preview selection, you can see this is commercial, this is residential, right? So have them in the right place. The goal is you want to make sure you have all of these geometries inside the block, right? And then after that, you are going to bake it. So double click, toggle, you see all the layers generate, close it, and then I'm going to select this elevated footprint. I don't really need this two-dimension footprint anymore, so make sure when you export, you only export the elevated footprint, okay, plus the street. So I think the best way to do is actually just highlight all the layers you need to export, which including the streets. Okay, so that's it. Street plus all the building. So right click, you can select objects. So this is all the objects selected, including street as well as a building, which is elevated in a 3D. I did not select the 2D footprint, so just be careful. We don't need the 2D footprint. Then you can export selection into DXF. This is a format we actually need for scenario 360. So where is the DXF? Let's see. DXF. I don't understand why DXF is not show up. Oh, here, AutoCAD DXF. All right. So when you use DXF in the options, make sure you choose 2004 solids. This is the best format we tested. So 2004 solids. Click OK. Then you can save the file as whatever name. Then you can give the file to the other team. All right. So this is the whole process to bake automatically into the right layers and then export the street plus building into DXF. All right. That's it.